I'm just getting the hang. If you can hear me, I'm getting the hang of this Zoom thing. Okay. Thanks, Alyssa. Appreciate it. You can hear me. Can anyone see me? I've just clicked you all onto allow. I'm allowing you to talk, so feel free to ask me questions. We're gonna not rush into it. We've still got 7 minutes, and we'll see how many. Geez, people are coming to this one. Man, welcome, people. Welcome. They're good light. Look at that. Welcome Hannah, welcome Anne, welcome Leanne, welcome Elisa, welcome Druti and Mandeep, welcome Phil, welcome Lauren. Hello. Lots of familiar names, that's great. Welcome. How's everyone doing? Oh, lots of chats. Oh, good. Fantastic. Oh. Do I still wear my hey Sean, how's it going? Man bag. Oh my word, you must see my man bag. I've got a collection now. I was actually lying to you all. We're not going to talk about stars, we're going to talk about man bags. Phil brought it up. Check at these puppies. How's that? That's a black one. Leather. That's one of my favorites. This is a utility version. Lots of little pockets. That's where you put your SIM cards when you're traveling. You lose them all the time. Pepper spray, whatever you want. Passports, sweets, snacks. 2 versions, brown and black. See that? Lauren. Oh, Lauren, yours is one of my favorites. This is Lauren's gift to me. This is quite a trendy number. You guys will recognize those characters. Where's the camera on this thing? There it is. Who are those guys? 3 favorite people: Simba, Timon, and Pumbaa. Legends. Yeah, I wear this one on special occasions, though, only when I'm, I feel like throwing something on. This one comes in handy. These are like for the bush. And then I've got this. This is when I'm going to a ball or a dance, something really fancy. You have to wear this one. This is a French designer. Got a horse and a rider in the front. This was also given to me by someone very dear to me. Very special occasions. Anyway, we're not here to talk about fanny packs or bum bags, believe it or not. We're here to talk about star photography. We've got 3 more minutes, so I can't start just yet in case I miss someone out. But welcome, people. Welcome. Oh my word. Jeez. What are you all doing here? So many people. I was going to say, surely there's better things to do, but clearly there's not. And that probably would not be that funny. So, hello. Let me start from there. Emil, welcome. Bianca, welcome. Brian, Capuchin, I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome. Chris, welcome. Hello. Hello, Chris Tinkler. Hey, hello, old friend. Daniel, how's it going? Hannah, Lindsay, Lucas, Walter, Malt, Nick Smith. Epic, guys. Epic. Bring it in. Lauren, yeah, Phil. No. It's raining. Oh, no. I couldn't agree more. Cappuccino. I hope I'm saying that. Cappuccino. I'm not very good at that. But you're right. What is best than learning more? Couldn't agree more. Chris, it's raining in England. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. It's actually beautiful sunshine here at the moment, not to brag. But we're going into winter, so it's about to get cold. Very cold. Let me turn that off. Welcome. I'm glad you all joined. We're going to talk star photography. We're going to do, just so everyone knows, I'm not sure where everyone here is from. Some of you I know quite well, and I know where you're from. I know a lot of you actually quite well through Instagram or Safaris. Good to see you guys too. Nice, welcome. Switzerland, all over the world, England, Joburg. Brian, how's it? We'll go for a beer after this lockdown's done. Switzerland, California. Wow, guys. Netherlands, Germany, Zim. Oh, but you're stuck in Brussels, I'm sorry. Brighton, UK, Canada, Sweden, New York, Czech Republic, Anna. Interesting, I've always wanted to see the Czech Republic. Belgium, likewise. Germany, so all over the place. I don't know who's on lockdown and who isn't. We're on lockdown. And I'm going to follow up this webinar with another webinar a second I'm out of lockdown, because I'm missing. I didn't really take the lockdown that seriously. I was one of those people who are just like floating in the clouds and like, oh, what's going on? And all of a sudden I was locked down, and all my hard drives are locked in our office, which I can't get to. So I don't have some quite complicated star shots that I was hoping to show you, but it's fine. That whole system of stacking and removing noise is actually for a whole webinar on its own. So we're going to have another one of these in the coming months. Wow. Welcome, Tessa. Samuel, welcome. Rhonda, Paul, Nick, welcome. Welcome, Melinda. Welcome, Malta. I think I'm capturing everyone here. Hey, Emily, good to hear from you. Good to see you here. Licio, Edmund, Daniel, welcome everyone. What's the time? Oh, it's 19:01. So we're going to get going, okay? I just want to make sure a few things are all right here. I want your guys' feedback on it. Just on, before we get started, I want to share screen. Share. Okay, that's good. So that works. Can you guys all see my Lightroom? That's good. Nice. Okay. So how do I click off stop share? There we go. Right. Okay. Now I'm back on the main screen, I hope. I think. There we go. I don't have audio. Alicia. Can you guys hear me? What? Why did I mute? No? Should be there. Can hear you. Alicia, can you hear me? It might be on your side. Sometimes Zoom has all these different options. Let me see. Let me find you, Alicia, here and see if there's something on my side I can do. Let's connect the audio to the conference. You see that, Alicia? Connect the audio to the conference. I'll wait for you to. Can you hear Alicia? Alicia, left-hand side, bottom left-hand side. Audio setting. Connect the audio to the conference. You there? Okay, audio fine, everyone. Alicia, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can read the messages, let me just message you personally. Guys, we'll start in a few seconds. Let's just make sure everyone's happy. Almost there, guys, almost there. Welcome, Ellie. Welcome, Amy. Natalie, welcome. Melinda, welcome. Welcome, Jackie. Julia. Ernesto, welcome. Edmund, welcome, 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 people, welcome. Okay, we're going to get going. Alicia, I hope you can hear me. I hope your audio is sorted, but we are going to get going. Astrophotography. I'm looking forward to this. It's getting into the main screen. Okay. Man, what is going on here? Okay. All set. Fantastic. Okay, let's get it. Let's get going. Everyone can see me. Everyone can hear me. We're going to start with a few things. When we're going to get into astrophotography, the first thing I'm going to talk about, guys, is gear to use. And in this case, in astrophotography, I do recommend having the right gear. It does make a big difference. And we're going to start with basic equipment, what I use when I go out. Now, when I talk about astrophotography, I'm talking about shooting the night sky, the stars, okay? And getting the most out of the stars. We're going to do, like I said, we're going to do an advanced one in a couple of weeks' time when I get out of the house and I'm allowed out of the house, and we're going to do star trails, and we're going to do lighting and some crazy creative stuff we're going to get into. But today we're going to get into basics of, one, the settings, taking a single image of the stars and the best settings to have in that situation. And then we're going to go into panoramics and stitching, and we're going to do a little bit of playing at the end with how creative you can be to just warm us up for the next one. But first we're going to look at gear. Okay. Now, I travel a lot, and usually I'm yet to go on a safari that is just based on star photography. So I'm carrying a lot of gear, usually a lot of wildlife stuff, big lenses. So I can't carry a big, hefty, heavy tripod, which does make a big difference. My brother is a keen astrophotographer, and he's got a proper, very thick tripod, which keeps the equipment very still. It makes your life quite a lot easier. I'll show you in photographs that we're going to look into when I share my screen why it makes such a big difference. But quite simply, camera bodies, you'd be surprised, you don't need a professional camera body. Literally, you can get amazing star shots on very old cameras these days. As long as the biggest thing is low light capabilities. If it doesn't show a lot of noise on high ISOs, the better. This is a D850 Nikon. It's very good in low light. I also use my 750, which is not as good, but there's methods that I'm gonna show you to remove noise and stacking in the next video. It's quite a big process. So those of you that want to take star photography further, we're going to have a huge webinar on image stacking, but it is a very complicated process. We're going to do that another time. But for now, you don't really need that. That's only if you're going to print a big piece and the noise might come through. But nice wide angle. This is one of my favorite lenses, guys. If you're looking for star photography shots. Oh. Okay, Sean, good question. Sorry, I'll get to that actually. Getting focus. I will get to the focusing parts. Very good question. I will get to that. But let's do equipment quickly first. This is one of my favorite lenses. Fixed 20mm. It's a Sigma. You'd be surprised. Now I know Sigma aren't known for the highest quality lenses, but some of their lenses are extremely good. And this one, mine's actually broken. There. Funny story actually. This, I was trying to get a star shot of a elephant carcass with a bunch of lines on it, and the Milky Way was going over it. It was one of the first times I put my tripod down, and I put it down next to the car, and I was gonna take a picture and get the Milky Way and the elephants next to the lines. Elephants next to the lines. Lions next to the dead elephant. As I reversed over my tripod and camera. So that's what happens. It's not a fisheye. Actually, I do enjoy fisheye lenses. I've worked with them quite a bit. What I prefer is stacking lenses with, because a fisheye does kind of distort it. You can fix that in Lightroom. It has a very wide angle, so the whole horizon bends quite a lot. But you can fix that in. It is the Sigma Art Series. You're right. It is the Sigma Art Series, Lauren. They're very good. Very good for astrophotography. So I do use fisheyes. They're nice. If I was you, if you're going to go wider than 20 mils, I would go to a 1635, 16 mils, somewhere around there. That's perfect. And if you still need to go wider, if you're doing a pano, if you need both sides of the Milky Way, I'll just stitch it. It has a better shape, the photograph, if you want to call it that. So nice wide angle, even at 24-70 is very good. I often use these. Nice tripod, nice sturdy tripod, and then you get into the fun stuff. That's the basics. With that, you can do 90% of the beginning stages of star photography. Then we can get into quite fun stuff. Always have a torch, okay, over there for painting. I'm sure you all know what painting is. When your slow shot is going on, you can paint a subject, but we're going to go into that at a later stage. I've got a flash now, but this I'm going to get into advanced star photography at another stage. I use this for freezing subjects, moving subjects while I'm painting them. Good point, Melinda. Absolutely. Sigma 14mm is an amazing lens, especially for this kind of thing. It's an incredible lens. So flash, I'll show you what I use a flash for. It's rare, but it gets into the creative side of things. And then you've got an option of, I bought these. This is my other one. I've got photographic equipment lying everywhere. Okay, lights like these. I don't know if Philip Gerry is online in this chat at the moment. I don't. So with these art lenses, the hood is fixed onto it. You can't remove these hoods, but you can. You're welcome to. I mean, I've never had a problem with the hood itself, but some people do advise removing it. But I won't say that it's essential, but sometimes I will. Standard kit lens be okay? 1855, absolutely. And I'm going to show you why in 1855 it will be okay. 100%, 100%. You can get so creative with star photography. It's limitless. I've done star photography on a 70-200 before, just stacking and doing panoramics and playing. It's limitless, and I'm going to show you some techniques on how to do it now. So this is the last little bit of equipment that I'm going to show you. Okay, I have these lights. Now, these lights, they're not just lights, studio lights, okay? Hope that's not blinding you guys. You can adjust the brightness. You can go right down to very little bit of light. This, for me, and I have two of them, if I want to paint my subject and I want stars going over that subject, these have a much more even natural light than if I'm painting with a torch. Sometimes torch, you miss areas, and it can be quite uneven. So I usually light up 2 of these on either side of my subject, and then with a very slow shutter, you can do it with 1 image. You know, the stars beautifully lit up, and then a nicely lit up subject. So if you're going on a star trip, all of these things are good. I have 2 flashes, I have torches. Little bit of advice: the best torch I've found with the most natural spread out bit of light is an iPhone torch or a Samsung torch. It's very spread out. It's a little bit cold sometimes. You're gonna heat it up a little bit, but that's fine. You can play with that later. But just your phone torch, I use it all the time. This thing, it's so good for lighting up your subjects in star photography. Okay, so that's equipment. Tripod, good lens, wide lens, some torches to play with. A fanny pack, bring one of those, always useful. Let's get into some time. Before we get into some edits and actually taking the picture and settings, I wish I could be doing this outside. It would be so much more fun. We will do that. Trust me, when this lockdown's over, we're going to be going outside with these webinars. We're going to look at time and place. Time and place. Very, very, very important. Too often, now you can take very beautiful images of the night sky at any time of day when there's no clouds and the sun is, and the moon is down. But if you really want to get really beautiful things, Samsung 24x1.4, very good cheap option. Oh, thank you. Sorry, blinding you guys. Okay, so we're going to go out and we're going to talk about time. Timing is everything. Now, you're all from all over the world, so you're going to be looking at the Milky Way from different. I do use a remote shutter. Good point. I don't know where my thing behind. I was going to go into this at a later stage in settings, but if you really want to, a remote shutter does come in handy. Where it is? I think it's down here. Okay, so those of you who asked for a remote shutter, Hannah. So a remote shutter is very good, guys. I do use one, especially I'm going to show you in my Ethiopia images. It does come in handy. T-mount to a telescope. That's interesting. We'll talk about using a telescope for night photography. With some camera, we can use phone. Yeah, you can use your phone. I think you guys are answering each other's questions there using a telescope. Surely the wider is better. Wider is better most of the time. Okay, guys, I'm gonna keep going, and then I'm gonna answer your questions quite soon. But yeah, the wider, the better. Not necessarily, depending on who you are. If you're struggling for money, like most of us in the photography game, if I had the money for a 16mm, a 20mm, a 70mm, a 200mm, a 300mm, I'd buy all of them. I bought a 20mm because I can use this for not only astrophotography, I can use it for landscapes, I can use it for a bunch of things. I even use it for wildlife photography. The subjects are really close to me and I want big skies. So it's a versatile focal length, 20mm. 16mm is very wide. You're going to battle to use that for anything other than very wide landscapes, big scenes, star photography. So it's not as versatile. If you can get a 16-35, beautiful. Probably one of the best lenses you can buy. So we're not using a remote shutter after your photos. So I do use a remote shutter, and I'll get to that shortly. But let's get into time. The later the better. This is quite simple. The later in the night, the better. The darker, the better. If you can get up at 12 o'clock at night, it's best. Obviously, there's 2 things you need to consider. Light pollution. You can't even see the light that 25-second shutter speed will pick up in the frames. So the least light pollution as possible, and the moon is a big thing. I'm going to show you some pictures now what the moon does to night photography, to astrophotography images. The less moon, the better. You can get super creative with the moon and mix it into images sometimes, and it works, but generally you need it to be as dark as possible. So yeah, what are we on now? Using a remote shutter. Okay, as dark as possible, basic equipment we've been through, basic settings. Okay, so this is going to be quite a long period, so feel free to ask questions as we go. we're going to talk about how you set up a star shot. Okay, so nice camera. Well, doesn't have to be a nice camera at all. The first thing I do is look for the Milky Way, the hottest part of the Milky Way. What I mean by that part is, let me share my screen. Where's Lightroom? Lightroom Classic. Share. Let's go to wide angle lens. Can you please repeat which one it was? Wide angle lens. Okay, I'll get to those now. Let me just find this lens. Get out of there. Find this camera. Sorry, this photo. Attributes. So, can you all see this photograph? That's the part of the Milky Way that I'm talking about. The Milky Way is a big place. If you can see this part, usually if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's around the Southern Cross, and we'll reset that, and we're gonna edit that later. That's the part you want to look for. And wherever you are in the world, use different. There's so many different star apps you can use to track the Milky Way, track the hot parts of the Milky Way, which explode in night photography shots like this. So tripod head I'm using, I actually can't remember. I think it's a Suri. It's a Suri. It's a nice light Suri with a little bore head on the top, fluid bore head. It's not that essential, which you can have the cheapest tripod in the world and still do this effectively if you're just careful, and I'll explain why. Photo Pills is a great app, guys. Paul's got a good point. If you don't have Photo Pills, get Photo Pills on your phone. It is a great app. So please do get that. Lucas, you're right. Yeah, Photo Pills is good. So wide angle. So I'm just going to answer some of your questions before we go into settings. Ada, you asked which wide angle lens. 20mm Sigma. It's the Art Series lens of Sigma. Nice price, crazy good price for the quality of this lens. And this thing has been kicked. You can see there's chips in my glass here from elephants that have kicked it over, and I've played with this lens quite a lot, and it's, oh man, 5 years old now, and it's still going strong. So it is a very good lens. Okay, I've answered the rest of those. Yes, Tessa, I do use an app. I don't use Night Sky Tracker. I use Photo Pill, the one that Lucas and Paul have mentioned in the comments here. You guys must check out Photo Pill. It is a really powerful app, not only for star photography, but for many aspects of photography. So we're going to go back into settings now. I should be big on all your screens again. And then there we go. There we go. Right. Settings. Right, so we've got the Milky Way, we've timed it, we've used our app. She's over the horizon. The best part is to get that hot part of the Milky Way. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's around the Southern Cross. Northern Hemisphere, it's always going to be different. You've got to track it. Use Photo Pill, track it. And sometimes you just got to look up. That shot that I just showed you now, I took it with Jill and Mana Pools. I wasn't even tracking the stars. I just looked up, and for some reason it was just perfect time, and it was lined up in that gap in the tree. So always look up and look for those hot parts of the Milky Way. It makes a big difference, and I'll show you later with some shots. So you've lined it up. I'm just going to pretend this camera's on there. Focusing. Someone asked about focusing. I think it was Sean who asked about focusing. Okay, I'm going to get onto that now. Firstly, settings. Right, so most cameras, you have to shoot in manual mode. So we're going to shoot in manual mode. You have to do stars in manual mode. Okay. Let me just go to the back. Okay. Manual mode. Walking into a scene. Now, every scene is going to be different, but you're pretty much going to be okay at your widest aperture. So this is a 1.4 lens. Okay. f1.4, the wider the better. You can do f2.8. You can even, some shots you can shoot on f3.5, f4, no problem. Okay, so you don't need an f1.4 lens. However, it does help with reducing noise because you can lower your ISO. Okay, so your widest aperture, f1.4, and your shutter speed up at this is a general rule. You must listen to this quite carefully. It's not written in stone, but for better results, you must try and coincide your focal length when shooting stars with your shutter speed. So 20 mil works a little bit better around 20-second shutter speed. A 16 mil, you can usually get more. Think about a 16 mil. Because it's a much wider lens, stars could drift a little bit more. If all of you know what I mean by stars drifting, if your shutter speed is too slow, 30 seconds and above, the stars actually move in the frame and they become lines, and it actually looks like a blurry photo, like your tripod got bumped. So as much as we would like to go to 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes and capture all that light and have 100 ISO and very low ISOs, we can't, because the stars are always moving, unless you're going to do it for the whole night and you're going to get star trails. If that makes sense. I hope this is making sense to you guys. So with a 20 mil, I like to sit at about 20th of a second. That's when I get the best results. With a 16 mil, because it's much wider and the perspective is much wider and the stars are technically going to be a little bit smaller in the frame, they're allowed to drift a little bit more before it's actually noticeable. So you can take a 16 mil to 30 seconds much more effectively than you can take a 20 mil. So I take 20 mil to 20 seconds and then my ISO at about 2400, okay? You can go to 3200, you can kick it up. Sometimes I kick it up to 6400, but at 6400, that ISO, that noise is going to show up. This thing's blinding me. That noise is going to show up. So 2400, 3200, I'll hover around there. At f1.4, you can even kick that right back down towards 1800, somewhere around there. But walking into a scene, 2400, 3200, that's where I sit. Let me just see your question here. If you're using a 50 mil, now a 50 mil is going to be very exact. So it's not going to have a much narrower view than a 16 mil. You wouldn't be able to go as slow as 30 seconds because you'll be focusing on much fewer stars, and those stars will be bigger in the frame. So if you were to go to 30 seconds, you'd be able to see that the stars drift much easier. So in a 50 mil, you would have to stick to about 20 seconds. If you go less than 20 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, your ISOs are going to have to be quite high and you're going to get a lot of noise. So even with a 50 mil, I'll stick to about 20 seconds and you won't get stars drifting. 20 seconds. And if it is a 50 mil, likely it's going to be a 1.4, 1.2 aperture. You're going to have plenty of light to work with there. So don't stress. You can use 20 seconds, even maybe 25 seconds. But just keep an eye on those stars drifting. So we've got our settings. ISO 2400, widest aperture, and a very slow shutter speed of 20 seconds. All set up and ready to go. The next thing, now this is what Sean asked. Okay, sorry, I'll answer that question. Sean, you asked about focusing. This is so important. You got two options in astrophotography. And one is focusing on stars, one is focusing on the subject. This is the very basic. This is taking one image, okay? Most of the time you want to focus on your stars. Whether you're shooting Sony, Nikon, or Canon, they all have this option. The easiest way to do it is if you're on, now pretend this camera is the one on the tripod. You're looking at the stars. You found that hot part of the Milky Way, or you haven't even found that hot part of the Milky Way. You want to make sure your camera is focused dead on the stars. The stars are as in focus as possible, okay? Yes, you can go, no, absolutely, Natalie. It doesn't matter. If you can't, f4 is perfect. And I'll tell you another secret towards apertures just now. And sometimes, even if I have f1.4, I sometimes still shoot on f4. And I'll show you, we're actually on that part now. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is actually quite good. I'll just use my lights, for example. So you can see my lights in the camera over there. Stars are going to come up in the frame like that. So you're clicking on, depending on which camera you're using, some of them, so Nikon has an option of being in stills mode over here. If you look at it over there, stills mode or video mode. I can only zoom in live view on video mode with this Nikon, okay? But a lot of Canons and a lot of other cameras, you can click onto live view and then you can zoom by just clicking the plus button over here. So if I find my stars like that, if you find them up there, I click and I can zoom into them. And you keep going all the way Okay, this star is very close to me, so now it's filling the whole screen. But usually that'll then look like a little speck in the frame. And now when it's there, oh, I click off it. Okay, we press the zoom button, whether you're on a Nikon or a Canon or a Sony or anything there. Now you're zoomed in. Let me find those things again. Right up against that one star. You've picked one star in the horizon. Let me try and follow. This is proving to be quite difficult. In the sky, the brightest one you can find. It could even be a planet. Venus, if you're in the southern hemisphere, Venus is always most of the time available, and you can do it with Venus. And you need to focus on Venus or the brightest star in the night sky. So you find them in your frame, live view, zoom up, and now you use your focus ring. Okay, take that off. You're in manual focus. Remember that? You've clicked onto manual focus. Okay, and then you use your focus ring, which is this. Take that puppy, like that. And now while you're viewed, let me see if I can find this thing again. There we go. While that star is in your frame, you turn your focus ring until it's nice and sharp. Let me see if I can show you what that does. See it blurry? Sharp. And you just do it until you find the sharpest, until your star goes very, very, very small, the smallest it can go. And then you know that's the sharpest it can be. Focus peaking, true, focus peaking can help. Lauren, what Nikon? This is a D750 and this is a D850. That's all the questions there. D750 and D850. Okay, so once you've zoomed in on live view, you've found your star, you've used your focal ring. Now, in one of my videos on Instagram, I told you to just put it on infinity. Some cameras, especially old cameras, you can't zoom in on the live view. So that's why I said if you're unsure, just put it on the infinity ring over here. Midway, there's an infinity sign, put it there. But you're not going to really find the sharpest focus there. So doing it with the live view, zooming up into a star, and using your focus ring as much as you can. Can zoom definitely? Yes, it can, absolutely. So, and then using your focus ring, you've zoomed in. What I like to do after that is just put a little bit of duct tape on the focus ring like that. Bang. Because this thing can bump. You just touch it and now your stars are out of focus. And especially if you're doing a stack and then 3 of those stacks are out of focus, you're going to cry at the end of the day when you get home and you've been up all night and they don't stack. So very important piece of tape, getting your focus right, getting your settings right. Also, last thing, sorry, when you're reviewing your images at night, remember it's going to be dark all around you and your LCD screen is backlit, okay, no matter what camera you're using. So you take these pictures and they look beautiful and you go, oof, this is stunning. This is amazing. This is beautiful. And then you get back to your computer and you put them on and they're all dark. Not good, okay? That's because your LCD screen's backlit. So if you're doing star photography, in Nikons or Canons or Sonys or Olympus or anything you're on, you will have an option to darken your monitor's brightness. And you just take it all the way as dark as it can go, like that. And then you're going to get a more accurate reading of what your photograph looks like to edit later. Otherwise, you might take dark images and be quite disappointed later when it comes. So darken your LCD screen, get your focus ring through live view zooming and using your manual focus, tape it down, and then the settings that I just described earlier. And you're ready to shoot. Put it on your tripod, find your objects in the horizon. Most of the time, a star shot is made a little bit better with something in the foreground. Anything in the foreground, a tree, a person, something in the foreground just gives it a little bit more character. We're going to go into that a little bit later. Okay, so basic settings done, foreground done. We take our picture. Now, that's setting up. In order to take this picture, I'm going to have to take you to Lightroom. We're going to go to Lightroom and we're going to see how such settings have turned out for certain images and how to edit them. Unfortunately, I can't do more than that exact setup unless you've got questions on the setup of how to put your camera. another thing I like to do just before we go is sometimes you can't see the horizon. So you can't see if your camera is straight or not. So most cameras, oh, I don't have a memory card inside, will have an option. If you click on live view and you find info on a Nikon camera or a Sony or Canon, you can find your level. Because sometimes this horizon is too dark, you can't see it, you can't see if your camera is level or not. So the last thing I do is just make sure my camera is level, and then I can tilt it on that plane. So great tip, thanks, live view was a great tip. All right, anyone else questions with setting up, settings, what lens to use, if your lens that you've got is okay and how to use it the best, or should we move to some results and take it from there? How far from any ground light do you need to be? It depends. What do you mean by ground light, Marie? As in light pollution, city pollution, that type of light? I mean, I've taken pictures in places where cities that were 100 kilometers away ruined my star shot. So, but then again, I've also taken pictures right next to cities facing the other direction and gotten beautiful star shots. So micro four thirds camera, the settings will be the same, but bear in mind, because you've cropped in, it's going to give you a little bit less versatility with the photograph later. That's pretty much going to be the only difference, but the settings are going to be identical. If you've got a 4/3 camera, if you've got a crop camera, settings exactly the same. Marie, light pollution, yes. So light pollution is all depending on the angle. I'll show you a picture now that we took in the south of the Wangwa. There was just a fire. I think it was a tree burning, but it was outside of the park. It must have been 60 k's away. And I'll show you what it did to the photograph now. It actually ended up looking quite nice. So this is, sorry, Sean's just reminded me, I forgot one setting, and it's very, very important. Listen, Chris, good question, Chris. The moon, the less moon, the better always. If the moon's up and it's just a sliver, you can still take a good shot. In fact, I've even taken shots with the moon up and it's quite bright and the Milky Way's in the right place, and I go, let me just try, and it still works quite nicely. So I don't just put my camera down if I see the moon's bright and I give up. Sometimes I can still get something nice, but the less moon, the better, and even better if the moon is down and there's no moon at all. So, sorry guys, Sean Fielding over here has got a very good point. Almost forgot it. Extremely good point. So, no matter what camera you're on, because you're shooting on such a slow shutter speed, you need it to stay as still as possible. That's why I have my remote timer, which I don't know is hidden underneath all the stuff that I'm digging through over here. Those of you that are not sure what a remote timer is, there's a little receiver that sticks to the top of my camera, and I set the shutter off with a remote. That means that when I push the shutter button down, the camera doesn't move at all. If you don't have a remote timer, you just stick it onto self-timer mode over here. All your cameras have it, and you put it to 2 seconds. That means when you push the shutter down and let it go, then the camera is still, and then it takes a picture. You don't move it when you push the shutter down. Good question, Sean. Very good question. So on metering mode, it depends. I've always left it on geez, what is it called there? They're called on different things. On my Nikon, it's called partial, no, it's called matrix. What is it called on my Nikon? Let me see what it's called. Okay, so I think it's called matrix. It's the one when it's 60% of the middle of the frame and 40% outside of the frame. So depending on what camera you have, they've all got different names. It needs to take a metering of the whole frame, not just small parts of the frame, not center weighted, not spot metering, but it has to take a light reading of the whole frame if you can. But all of the cameras have different names for the metering mode. I hope that answers your question, Druti. Remote cable works very well, Tessa. The video, yes, it's on my Instagram on IGTV at the moment. You can have a look at it there, but I will be making more, Julia, so don't stress. Right, is everyone ready for some results? And we can look at photographs, why they came out certain ways. Yep, good. Okay, we're going to go into Lightroom. There we go. Lightroom. We're going to start with some pretty basic stuff. Like I said, most of my hard drives are stuck in our office and we're in lockdown. So we're going to check with some single shot photography, and we're going to go into panoramics, and then we're going to play with some big stuff. Okay, so single shot. Let's see what my settings were. Yeah, can you guys? Sorry, can you guys see the question and answers and chats at the moment on my screen, or are you just seeing Lightroom? It's just Lightroom. Are these just Lightroom? Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Let me move that there. I don't need that. Lightroom only. Okay, let's put that. Seems like sorry, I'm just seeing a lot of questions coming through here. I go. Oh, I go. Did you see the part about focusing correctly? Star Tracker Liz is definitely worth getting. Charlotte, is it difficult to use a 7200 astrophotography? Yes, you won't be able to do very wide shots. You have to be quite particular on subjects. But at 70 mils, if you're creative and you're willing to stack lots of images next to each other, it can still work. It's not ideal though. I wouldn't buy a 7200 for astrophotography. I hope I answered the focusing question when I told you about manual focusing and using live view and focusing on the stars with your manual focus. But if not, I can get hold of you afterwards and we can chat more about it. Yes, Tessa, if you have someone in the foreground or something, you still focus on the brightest star, correct? If you're doing one shot. If you're doing two shots, which I love doing, is taking two shots, focusing on your subject and then focusing on the stars, and then you stack them later in Photoshop. Very easy to do. So I'll show you that now. Yes, I do use the application. I think that's all the questions. Evaluative, yes. A lead, it is evaluative. No, Samuel, you don't refocus. You don't have to refocus when changing composition at all. That's why you use the tape. Use a duct tape. That little thing, you stick it down. That's once you've focused on the stars. You've stuck them down and you don't have to refocus again unless you're doing a stack. When you're doing the stars and you're doing your subject. You do all your stars and then you focus on your subject, take your subject, and then you stack them later. I'm going to show you how you do that. Okay. White balance. So white balance, this is a good question. As you all know, white balance is not fixed. It's not written permanently to the raw file. You can change it afterwards. But personally, I like to make sure my white balance is perfect. It's how I want to do it. Usually I go cold. So I'd go into custom white balance, go to Kelvin, and go to about 4,000 or 4,200 Kelvin. It just makes it a little bit colder. I find that if it's on auto, it can be a little bit warm. And you can see with the image that's on the screen now. Can all of you see the image that's on the screen? I think it's a bit warm. You can look at these trees here. This is taken in Mana Pools. Jill and I was literally sitting next to the fire. Liz. Absolutely, you can rent a 1635 from us. Very welcome. We've got lots of 1635s in the office. You can absolutely rent one. So let's get into the images here. Taking a Mana Pools. This was one shot. And this literally, we put this tripod on the ground, put it right next to the ground, and turned it so it was literally facing straight up. Where's that gap? Straight up in the sky. And I actually had to get underneath the camera, so lie flat on the ground to shoot just straight through the trees above us. And you can do this with anything, with clouds. Often people see clouds in the night sky and they go, oh, put my camera down, no more star photography. Clouds, make the most beautiful effect. And if there's lightning in those clouds and you can see stars in the Milky Way, if you don't take your camera out and do star photography, shame on you. You have to. I mean, the images, I just wish I had my other hard drives here. You can get some crazy, beautiful stuff with lightning, lighting up clouds and Milky Ways going over it. Crazy. So, it's hard to get it right, but anyway. So this is a one-shot image at stars. I focused on the stars themselves using that same technique, live view. Zoom into the brightest star, which is this one. I'm pretty sure that's, who would that be? Anyway, we're not doing a lesson on which star's which, but anyway, I'm pretty sure I focused on that star. Got my focus right. Settings. What the hell just happened? Let's have a look. 1.4, 25 seconds, ISO 1600. So playing around a little bit, slightly different from, like I said, when in each situation you need to play around, especially in this situation where these trees are not lit up by torch or cell phone. They're lit up by the fire itself. And the fire was just a couple of flames. That was all it took. And you can see how it lit the trees up. Okay. Ideally, in this situation, I would have taken 2 shots. Now, when you take 2 shots, okay, the first one, you focus on the stars. The second one, you focus on the trees, and you get 2 images that are in focus. One, the trees in focus, one, the stars in focus, and you stack them later, okay? When you're doing a tree shot, your subject shot, this is important. If you've got a pen and paper, when you're doing your subject shot, because you don't need the fire of the Milky Way, the brightness of the Milky Way, you can bring your ISO right down. Bring your ISO way down. Bring it to like 400, and you can kick your shutter speed all the way up to 30 seconds. Doesn't matter if it drifts, because you're not going to use the drifting stars anyway. They're going to blend away from the photograph anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So bring your ISO right down to 400. Bring your shutter speed as high as it can go, and get your subject shot. Okay. I hope that made sense. Made sense. Excuse me. Oh, what was I saying? Hope that made sense to everyone. Let's carry on. So, quite often, you're going to get star shots that come out like this. They look really hazy because there is a lot of dust in the sky, especially in the low Zambezi Valley where this is taken. It's not ideal for star photography. So, the best places to go are, you know, places where there's not a lot of dust. The deserts, Namib Desert is brilliant. I haven't been drinking, Lauren. I've actually ran out of wine about 4 days ago. South Africa's banned the consumption or the purchasing of wine, which is of all alcohol, which is quite unfortunate, especially if people like me didn't know that was going to be put in place. So I didn't stock up on pinotage. Anyway, so choosing a good place. Zambezi Valley is not a good place, especially in October. Long exposure noise reduction. Tim, exactly. If you look at Tim Nighthawk, who's joined the party, he has expressed, he's explained a setting in your camera called long exposure noise reduction. It can help you with noise reduction. Personally, I don't really put it on. Tim, I don't know if you've used it more. Take an image, we'll leave it for processing. I leave it for processing, personally. I come and do it in processing. These days, it's so easy to remove that haze. I mean, it's as easy as if you're watching the screen now, clicking the dehaze slider all the way, you can see it just removes a lot of that haze. But you've got to play around. It's not as easy as that. I'm going to show you some little techniques to help bring that Milky Way out again, to make it as far as you want it to be, okay? So you must remember, in the Milky Way, there's lots of different colors in here, okay? So there's purples, there's reds, there's magentas, there's sometimes green. So this is looking straight up at the Milky Way. When the Milky Way is close to the horizon, there's often a little green haze that comes up from underneath it. I don't know what the phenomenon is, but it gives you the option to select different colors in the Milky Way and make them more stand out a little bit more, because those colors are there. You want them to come out as much as possible. Okay, play with your whites, Those often bring the stars out. Drop your blacks will darken the areas a little bit between the stars. Now remember, I'm affecting the whole image here, but I can come back and I can remove those settings from my subject. If it's getting a little bit too contrasty on these leaves, no problem at all, I can remove it. Okay, and remember, there's a lot of ways to cook this fish. So this is just giving you some ideas. There's quite a few different ways. I've looked at a lot of photographers who do different ways of doing it, or bringing the Milky Way's colors out like this. But this is the ways I like to do it. So now that I've dehazed it a little bit, I've brought these colors out a little bit, I can come into the color channels. Now you can see, if you watch those colors, especially blue, there's gonna be a lot of blues in the sky. If I saturate the blues, I use NIC filters sometimes, Phil. I do use NIC filters, but not for star photography. I haven't tried it with star photography. I'd rather just do it myself in Lightroom or Photoshop. So yes, saturation, you can sometimes increase the luminance a little bit. I'm going to target all these colors. I don't think there's greens there. I think the greens are all in the trees around it. There's going to be yellows. Again, saturation. You can see it's making my leaves and the trees a little bit oversaturated, but I'm going to fix that just now. It doesn't matter. Okay, oranges. There's definitely a lot of oranges in there. Let's bring that luminance out. Let's make it really bright. Beautiful. Now that Milky Way is exploding, all those nebulas and clusters of stars are all coming out. There's always magentas. You must hit the magentas. Look at the magenta in there. So much magentas. And you can go wild with it. You can kick it all the way up, depending on how bright you want it to be. Okay, so now I've got my Milky Way nice and hot. The colors are coming out. I want to just take a little bit. I'm using a radial filter here. Can you all see that? You all see the radial filters up in this top panel. Okay, I'm using a radial filter here. And I'm just going to take those settings away from the frame of these trees, because these trees for me now are too significant in the frame. I love the frame, but they're too bright and they're too kind of distracting almost. They're taking too much emphasis away from the stars, which is I don't want. So I'm going to draw a circle. My NIC filter. Oh, okay. Delete that. Okay. Just drag it over. Remember, with a nice strong feather, it doesn't have to be exact. Okay. And I'm going to take a bit of saturation away from those trees. You see what that did? Oh, I'm inverted. That's why. Okay. Take a little bit of quite a lot of saturation down away from these trees. They're just a little bit too dark, a little bit less contrast, little bit. Let's actually take a little bit of brightness away. And now we're starting to get it for something. If we look at the two next to each other, we've got a Milky Way where we had quite a hazy, murky image before. Okay, so that's a single shot image. Now I did that very quickly. That was a once-off image. The rest of the time I was working with Jill, and we managed to get some beautiful shots of this Milky Way. There's a few more things I'll do to finish this image off, but that's the basic settings. If you remember that, there's a few ways to do it. I like to use dehaze, especially. You can see what it does to the image. It just brings the Milky Way out quite a lot. Dehaze slide is amazing. A little bit of clarity. And just play. Again, there's no wrong way of doing it, but just dance with it a little bit and play and play and play and play. All right. So, any questions on a single shot photograph before we go into some panoramics and we play with some more interesting stuff? Any questions? No? Should we go to the panoramics and stitching? Stitching. Just make sure I haven't forgotten anything. There's so many things to talk about with astrophotography that poor stacking. I will, but not on this one, because it's gonna take a little bit of time. Thank you, Charlotte. I appreciate it. But Paul, I am going to do another webinar, and we're going to go into stacking. But I'd like to get out into the field and actually go outside of Joburg and take a few pictures and show you how to do that. It is very cool to stack, but it's for a different webinar. Otherwise, we're going to be here quite late. Okay, so that is single shot photography. Again, like I said, in this situation, take 2 shots. One, you focus on the stars. The other one, you choose a focal point like here on the trees, and then it's as easy as clicking. If you take those two shots, let me show you. Is there one here that I can do it with? Maybe these will work. Okay, Ada, yes. How do you go back and forward when you have focused on the star without losing the focus? Okay, so Ada, you have your, you understand how we focused on the stars first, okay? So in this situation, we get our settings right, we take a picture of our stars, we check it a few times, we take a few pictures of the stars, we make sure our star shot is perfect. We want to do this quite quickly because the Milky Way, this is why I got so excited when this happened, is not going to stay in that gap for very long. So I've taken that picture, I look at it, I zoom up, I've checked it, the stars in focus, my settings are right. Then I come back to live view. Oh, just switched it off. Come back to live view. In your, where's my torch? In your live view mode, now you've banked your star shot. That's easy, it's done now. That was the hard part. In your live view mode, okay, you shine your torch. You shine your torch on your tree like this, okay? In live view mode, most cameras, you can see there's a little red square in the top right corner there. That's your focal point. Either if you have a touch screen, okay, you shine your torch on the tree so the camera can find the tree. You touch your screen on the tree, focus on the tree, or you just hold your focal point, whether it's your back button or your front button, you focus on the tree in autofocus mode. That's how I do it, okay? I don't bother coming back. You can use focus peaking. You can come back until the peaks show on the trees if you want and turn on focus peaking. Personally, I don't use focus peaking, but it's also a very good way to use it as well. Does that answer your question, Ida? So once you've, sorry, I forgot to say one thing there. Once I've used autofocus to focus on my tree with my torch, I turn it back onto manual focus. Then I've stuck that focus on the tree. Does that make sense? Oh, there's lots of messages coming through. Thank you. Cool. No, Michael Hamilton Foyne. Not necessarily, that's up to you. Sometimes a silhouette in the foreground looks just as pretty. And the nice thing about having a silhouette in the foreground is you don't have to focus so much on focusing your foreground because those details aren't going to be there anyway. You just have a silhouette, so it's a little bit easier. So Amy, good question. I have used an exposure meter before, but I don't find it necessary now that I know what I want. I don't really find it that necessary, so I just judge by my own eye. But good question. Those of you who want to look at exposure meters, they are quite useful, but I don't really use them myself. Okay, so yeah, the light on the trees is from the fire, and a tiny bit of fire. Like in that situation, I couldn't even see the trees; they were just dark silhouettes. But with a 25-second shutter speed, it came out. So no, Amelia, when you're painting with a torch, sorry, no, you switch your torch off, yes. So you shine on your tree, your camera can see the tree in the frame, you focus on your tree, switch your torch off, switch back onto manual mode, put the tape back on, exactly like you did when you're focusing on the stars. Okay, I'll paraphrase the questions then, sorry. Amelia asked, do you keep your torch on when the focusing is done? Now this is when you're focusing on the subject. The answer is no. Use your torch, find your subject, use your camera, focus on your subject. Now your subject's still in the tripod in the exact same position. Your subject's going to be in the frame. So all you're going to do is switch on to live view again, shine on the tree, click onto autofocus, focus on the tree, switch the torch off, click onto manual focus. Sorry, Amy. I do need to paraphrase these questions. So, Capuchin, I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I do light painting. I love light painting. And if it wasn't for the fire, I would have light painted in this image, 100%. Capuchin is asking if I do light painting. Light painting is beautiful. Almost always do light painting. Either I do it with these lights, or I do it with a torch, or I do it with my cell phone. But in this case, the fire actually provided a perfect amount of light. But there's some quite dark spots in those trees. I might have covered them up with a torch. Always on the subject, not on the sky. If lights hit the sky, sometimes you can do interesting things with people where the beam goes up into the sky, but if you're behind that light and the camera's next to you, it just casts this white haze all over the sky. So you must keep it off the sky. It's just for painting subjects. Okay, beautiful. Okay, fantastic. I don't understand why there's quite a few, there's two panels of questions coming up. So forgive me if I miss your question, just keep answering it and I'll get to it. Okay, so we've mastered the single shot. Now we're going to go into something what I love doing with star photography. Oh man, it's a game changer and it's too easy. Let's go straight into it. Okay, let me move these chats out the way. And let's go library attributes. So, it's I don't have anything bad on this laptop at all. That's the honest truth. But it is scary having screen sharing. I never know what might pop up, but I shouldn't worry because I don't look at anything that I shouldn't. Well, there's probably a lot of people going, yeah, rubbish, but that's the truth. So we are going to go into something a little bit more complicated, and that's panoramics. We're going to use them to capture the entire Milky Way. You can see this first image is just a one pot. For some reason, we're just lucky it was in that gap in the trees and it worked out perfectly. But it's nice sometimes to capture the whole Milky Way. Beautiful, and it's too easy to do. We can all do it right now in Lightroom. We don't have to go into Photoshop and do fancy things. We can do it in Lightroom. So we've got a picture. Now, I don't know who asked earlier about how far away you have to be from light pollution. I forgot who asked. Anyway, that over there, that red spot, that's a fire, and not even a big one. I think it was just a little fire in a bush fire, small fire in a tree. What happens in Zambia is honey collectors come. They come to collect honey, and when they collect honey, they burn green brush around them. I've done it before. It's actually quite fascinating. And then you can put your hand into the beehive, African killer bee, by the way, and you can just remove the honey and put it there. You must always leave some there. Then the hive can continue, and then you can come back and harvest. The problem is the less honorable honey collector leaves that burning stuff on the ground and creates a fire. That's what that was. Could barely even see it without this slow shutter. So we had this option. Okay, we can do the normal thing and take one picture with the stars behind this tree. We could have lifted it up a little bit and we could have caught a little corner of the Milky Way and then gone home and been like, that's all right. Instead, we take a series of photographs. Okay, so it's quite simple. Let me go to the end. You find, can you all see this clearly enough to notice that that is the left-hand corner of the Milky Way? The Milky Way is always going to come across the horizon like this. It's going to touch the horizon on two sides like this. It's going to come across the whole place. And sometimes it's right above you. And you'd be surprised. It doesn't matter if it's right above you. You can even include it into the picture. So you find where the Milky Way comes down like this. Some of you might have seen my video on Instagram already, so this might be a repeat of what you've already seen, but don't worry, we've got some more interesting stuff coming later for those of you who have seen this edit already. Okay, so we've taken, what I normally do is 6 shots across the horizon and then 6 shots above them, okay? Some people might tell me that that's too much and it's a little bit pointless. But I like to be sure and I like to make sure everything's in there. So, so it comes straight up. That's interesting. That would involve, I mean, you can even include that. You can do some beautiful shots if it's going straight up into the sky. Lauren, good point. I mean, it doesn't matter where it is in the sky. You can do some crazy things with star photography. So let's get into this. So you take, with those exact settings, what's these settings? 3.5, 25 seconds, ISO 2500. Okay. Now, there's a finicky thing some star photographers might go into is, and it's often it doesn't really matter, But remember when I said your settings must be on your widest aperture, okay, 1.4. All right. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have know by now that a lens, no matter what lens, has its own sharpest apertures. Some people talk about Canon's sweet spot being at 6.3, Nikon's sweet spot being at f8. Certain lenses having certain sweet spots. And it's included with wide-angle lenses like this. So when you zoom so far into a star and it's now filling the frame in live view, like I showed you earlier to find the focus point, and you find your focus point, you roll your focus ring, and the star gets smaller, until it's tiny. Okay. If you roll your aperture, if you're in manual mode and you roll your whatever ring is changing your aperture, you can actually see it change a tiny little bit more. If you go, sometimes f1.4 is not the sharpest aperture. So you roll it to f2.8 and you go, actually, tiny bit drop, and it got a little bit sharper at f3.5. So if you're willing to do that and minus a little bit less noise, I mean, you're going to add a little bit more noise with a high ISO. Sometimes that's why you see I shoot on f3.5. So remember that. Oh, I'm sorry, Melinda. Sorry, Melinda, no problem. I know there's connection issues all over the place. Sorry, Melinda. Melinda, you must try to get hold of me on Instagram or something, and I can send you a video with good audio, and you can, because this video is being recorded, and then I can send that to you, and you can watch it over again. How much RAM do I have? Phil, I'm not sure exactly, but you'll need quite a lot. You need quite a lot. And sometimes, guys, you need to make, if you're going to do big star shots like this, you're going to often get messages from Adobe saying that your caches are full because it's using a lot of RAM. Because if you're doing a big star shot, sometimes your Adobe products create so much, take away so much memory for one picture. Halfway through it goes, you need to empty your caches. I might actually show you how to do that at the end, just in case you run into those problems, to empty your caches, because this can sometimes happen. Okay, we need to get into the creating of a panorama. So we've taken this picture of the left-hand side of the Milky Way, and now we're going to take 6 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until we find the right-hand side of the Milky Way. Okay, and then we're going to go up a little bit. You literally just undo your little adjustment wheel on your tripod. Flick that thing up a little bit. Now remember, with a panoramic, you've got to overlap about 30% is good, is safe. Sometimes it doesn't even need that much, but a safe bet is about 30% for it to work. Caches. Okay, Tim, I'll show you about caches. Caches, they piss me off, I promise you. Oh, I can get so far into a project and it just says you can't do anything now because your caches are full. You can't even save the project, your caches are full. So, geez, I hope I remember. I always forget how to do it, but I hope I remember. It's at the end of the lesson, we'll go there. Okay, so we're taking 6 along the bottom, 6 along the top now. Same thing. You can see so let me just click on my lightroom. You can see I've just gone from down there. I've lifted the camera a little bit, and I've gone a little bit further up in the sky. You choose a bright star that you can see in live view, and you make sure in both frames, in the bottom frame it was in the top third, and in the next frame it was in the bottom third, just so you know that you're overlapping about 30%. And then you do the same thing. You come 6 back the same way, bang, 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 including the Milky Way. That Milky Way there is directly above me, up there. Doesn't look like it in the photo, but it's right up top. Okay, so there's 6 across. Looks like I'm missing one. Oh, don't tell me that. Oh, no, I went 6 across. Sorry, that's up there. All right, so now we go to the beginning one. Highlight them all. It's as easy as this. It's too easy. Right click, photo merge, panorama. So I've only got my smart previews on these photographs. My raws are all stuck in the office. I'm thinking, contemplating of sneaking in there, but I might get pepper sprayed, which I'm a little bit worried about. Okay. Right. So there's a few options here. Usually I stick on spherical over here. These will all do various things. Sometimes perspective doesn't work at all. Cylindrical definitely is not going to work. Spherical's usually the one I stay on. Okay, now boundary warp. Okay, let me click these all off first and you can see what they do. So without boundary warp and without auto crop, that's what you're left with. Okay, you can see sometimes the algorithm, you guys can all see this corner. I know that photograph was there. I've checked this photograph and I was so disappointed in the end, and I could see, I was like, but I've got that square in the photograph. So to avoid this, it's always worth doing extras on the side. Okay, so I kind of cut it fine with this, and my last photograph of the exact point where the Milky Way ended. Be safe, take extra ones on the side. You're going to avoid this happening, because sometimes the algorithm's like, I don't know what's happening, and it doesn't work, and you miss a little square there. So not a big train smash. We're going to fix that anyway. Let's zoom back out again. Boundary warp is going to start. It's going to start filling the frame with the picture as best it can. So it's going to bend the horizon and start filling the frame with the picture. So if I kick this all up, you can see it starts to straighten it out. So you got it about there. Now, because the algorithm didn't really work over here, you can see it missed a bit of the horizon. Now the Milky Way is falling off a cliff. Again, we're creating a piece of art here. So it doesn't really matter, and we can fix it in Photoshop if we really want. Let's see how that came out. Actually, I think I've already done it, so we don't have to wait for that to merge. Is that making sense so far, everyone? How to create a panoramic? Nothing special. 6 along the bottom, 6 along the top. Overlap by 30%. Don't tell me you're unable to merge. Just merged you. Hey. Yeah, we're not. Okay, let me try that again. Bizarre. Okay, I'm actually going to keep it there. Don't tell me you can't create a panorama, okay? Not in the mood for your trouble, Lightroom. Although it's definitely my fault. No, it's not going to let me. What I'm going to suggest, let me just click that off. I might actually have the full file that I created earlier. There's going to be a problem with, yeah. And it's so powerful, Lauren. It really is. I'm going to do another video one of these days. Is it there? Are you sure? Oh, I'm blind. Thanks very much. So, unfortunately, there we go. So there is one that's available. So I cropped this one. You can see that's where it was. That's where it came out. Thank you, Ida. Good eyes. I cropped this one out. You can see the algorithm, unfortunately, messed up over here. It didn't find the horizon. Sometimes this works. You gotta, especially if you're using a light tripod like this, sometimes it bumps, and if it bumps, the pano might not work very well. So you gotta bear that in mind. Best thing to do is grab one of those really nice heavy set tripods that doesn't move. But traveling with that, not that easy. So you got to do the best you can. Especially, this was taken with a client of ours and a friend, Dennis. And we were stepping in big, deep elephant holes the whole time. So the only place we could stand was in these old, dried up elephant footprints. So we were falling all over the place. So probably in all that commotion, we bumped it in that last corner, and we were left with that. So again, you can turn the temperature down if you don't like it, if it's a bit hot. Something a bit more natural is over there. So remember, someone asked me about white balance. I said about 4,000, 4,200. this temperature now is at 3,300. So you can go even colder than that. And that looks a little bit more natural to me. Let's go to 4,000, about there maybe. And again, same settings. You can see what I've done here. I've upped the whites. That's what it was before. It was a little bit dark. This was a problem. Remember what I told you about your LCD screen? It's exactly what happened here. My LCD screen was on bright, and we were getting a certain view in the dark. Yes, thanks for joining, Malta. Thank you. Enjoy your night work. I'm sorry you have to do that, but you'll get the tutorial later. Okay, so my LCD screen was on bright, which looked like we were getting the right settings in the moment, but in reality, it was a little bit dark. So that's why it's so important to turn your LCD screen down to the lowest when you're doing night photography. But it's no problem. Turn the whites up and you can see that the stars come back again. Turn the blacks down, which is around it. You can dehaze a little bit. And now you can come into the color channels. Let's play with those magentas. Sorry, Samuel. I'll send you the recording, my friend. Thanks for joining. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Okay, and now we're going to play with the magentas. Look at those magentas. Look how many magentas are in there. Oh, bring it in, magenta. Bring it in. Turn the brightness up. Yellows too. Oh, you can see. Sometimes you're just going to swing the slide a little bit to see exactly where you're affecting. Woo, look at those yellows. Beautiful. I wonder if there's any blues in there. Oh, there's blues. There's blues, people. And you can make it as colorful as you like. Don't go too crazy. But that's what you're left with, okay? Now, we are going to go, Paul has asked for it. Thanks, Igo. Such a pleasure. Take care. We are going to go into stacking and removing ISO. The second I can get out this house and get out there and take some pictures for you and actually get to the office. But for now, in one frame, sorry, in a panoramic, we're gonna stick to that, and we're gonna get into stacking at a later stage. Who would like to go to something quite crazy? This is all the night shots that I have got with me at the moment, astrophotography shots. But I do have a crazy project that I did in Ethiopia. I was in Ethiopia quite recently, and I love playing around with slow shutter speeds at night, and I'll show you some of the stuff I did. I just posted some on Instagram now of how I was setting it up, and I'm going to show you exactly what I was doing in the end, the whole project in total. Okay, so let me just go into here. Okay, I just want to show you, some of you can see you often see pictures like this wherever you go online and social media, where, I don't know if you guys know Greg Detroit. He had a beautiful one of elephants. That was also a very blue image. It won a whole bunch of awards or something like that. And there was elephants. Their movement was tracked, and then they were frozen. And then the movement was tracked, and then they were frozen. It looked like ghosts coming in and out the frame. Okay, I wanted to recreate this in Ethiopia with the Omo Valley tribesmen. Those of you know the Omo Valley, very, very interesting people. So let me show you some of these people. They are bizarre beyond. Sorry, my Adobe crashed about a week ago, and it forced me into re-uploading stuff. So my catalogs are all over the place. So these are the Omo Valley tribesmen. There's some crazy looking people, very interesting dresses and decorations. These are Karo tribe. Anyway, let's not go there. You know what they are. I think there's 8 tribes in total, or 11 tribes in total, and they're very interesting. But they are vanishing, and not fortunately, but you know, unfortunately for us, selfishly as the rest of the world, but fortunately for them, with the modern ways of Ethiopia of the world are creeping into the valley. And on a good side, they're getting medicine. The life occupancy is more than 30 years now. I mean, malaria would wipe people out in that valley like a company. So they're getting access to medicines. Unfortunately, though, there's also a big influx of modern culture. So their old traditions, some of them really bizarre, are not going to be here forever. So I want you to capture the phrase vanishing tribes of Omo Valley, because they are vanishing. And I wanted to try and do that. So I wanted figures in my night shot, but figures that weren't obvious, as if they were drifting off. So what I did is I did quite a big project here. This is just getting ready for the scene. This is just making sure my settings were right. So now I used a bunch of things here to get this shot. Okay, first I used a torch, and it was this torch which was still flat at the time. I spread it very wide, wasn't strong at all. And I just told a nearby villageman, sorry, it was actually our guide that was with me. He was taking me around and he was translating. And I said to him, I said, just keep this torch on me. It's so weak that you could barely see it was lighting anything up. But that's where you get these trails. If you look here, from where I moved from here to this position, you get these light trails. That's this torch, okay? Following me. And this little bit up top here, this is dust. Every now and again, I'll fix some dust up. And now, this is the funny part. When you are walking around, I've got this flash. I've got two flashes. And now these are set on transmitters that I can use with a remote. Now, this is getting quite fancy, but I just want to show you how creative you can get with star photography, how addictive it can get. This was put, if you can see behind me, there's Nigel Smith. Oh, be careful, everyone. If you could see the comments, old Tim. There's going to be some funny stuff there. Craziest, funniest Australian in the guiding industry, that's for sure. So I put this in the remainder of that fence you can see in the image. And as I was walking around with that torch on me, with my remote, I was just setting it off every now and again. And because of this high intensity light, it freezes your subject. Even though your shutter speed's 25 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, this high intensity of light will freeze your subject in that frame. But the now soft light means that my subject walks out of that freeze and goes to the next place. And the next time it flashes, it freezes it again. The scope of this type of photography is endless. I've seen people do it with animals, elephants, bats. Joel Sartori, if you follow him on Instagram, he's got a picture of a bat that makes me want to cry. It's so good. But yeah, this is what this was. So now I had this idea. I was going to go take a picture of the tribesmen, take a picture of the stars, take a picture of their village. Pleasure, Gareth. Take care, my friend. And then blend it all together. I tried to do this in one merge, but it didn't quite work. So the first thing I did was I took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pictures. What is that? Five pictures of the village itself. 1, 2, 3 across like this, all the way into the end. Bang, 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 bang. Now, it's not easy in these situations because, especially at night, they don't stay up late. And I had to be quick. So I pretty much had one. No worries, Amirs, no worries. Go ahead. No worries. Okay, so we're going to do 3 shots, merge 3 shots here. I'm merging the bottom. Okay. Now I've already done this, so I'm just going to use the originals. So that's what it does. Boundary warp, bring it to the edges, and I've got this frame. The village, a little bit of light. That light was from a light like this, one of these ones. Just lighting up the village a little bit. And I did the same with the stars above it. Okay, 5 shots across. Now you can see they're all silhouetted, which, because the light was a little bit high, I should have put a little bit of light on the house. It would have helped it merge. But you can see now I've got the stars. Now, usually you can merge these the same way. If you click on panoramic or HDR, it can merge the same way. Unfortunately, I didn't do them quick enough. So let me just I'm clicking on the right one. I had to do it in Photoshop. So I'm gonna click on that. And then this is where the people came in. One frame of the same spot where a couple of the people moved. They didn't really understand me because their language is so remote. So I had one chance anyway. Anyway, they moved around and I clicked this fella 5 or 6 times as they were moving around with a little bit of light to them, and you got these ghostly figures. And I wanted all of this in one frame. I tried to merge it, click all of them, and photo merge, panorama. I tried to HDR, and unfortunately, it wasn't similar enough. So what I did was I just cheated a little bit, and I went into Photoshop and I did it manually. Click on all of them, edit in. Oh, I don't have the originals. I'm not going to be able to show you how I did that without my originals, which are all sitting in the office. Anyway, this is the end result. Okay? Blurry people, stars behind them, foreground lit up. That's exactly what I did. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you how I did it in Photoshop without my originals. Damn. Sorry, guys. But there we go. That's how creative you can be. Stay tuned for more. We're going to go heavy onto stacking and removing noise and some big composite images of the Milky Way and reflections and stuff as soon as the lockdown is over. Any questions from you guys on star photography? Anyone? But that's, with all the images that I've got now, that's pretty much all I've got to say for this lesson. Anybody keen on any questions? Where can I find the where can I find this webinar? Chris, I will send it to you, and I'll post it online as well on Instagram. Yeah, I know. Pleasure, Paul. Thanks, Tim. Yes, I will, Rhonda. I will. The whole webinar is being recorded, so I'll be able to send it to those of you who want it. Pleasure, Liz. Take care. Pleasure, Lisa. Pleasure, Sean. Take care, my friends. Pleasure, Michael. Take care. Take care, Chris. Take care, Julie. Julia, sorry. Oh, nice to hear from you, Julia. Take care, Leanne. Such a pleasure. Take care, Lindsay. Lovely. Thanks, guys. Lucio, pleasure. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Bianca. Thanks, Andrew. Francis. Beautiful. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Druti and Mandeep. Good to hear from you. Thanks, Amy. Alrighty. Thank you to you all. Find me on Instagram if you've got any questions. Chat to me. I'm always there. We're going to have another one of these soon, and we're going to go deep into astrophotography. I'm going to end the lecture right there. Have a great day. Stay safe. And I'll chat to you all soon. Cheers.